So, did you enjoy this morning session? Yes. Well, I guess we'll call it hypnotic rapport and the unconscious signaling system. I mean, it's some pretty fascinating things. Who here had a chance to play with this over lunch as you went through? Yeah? Do you guys want to come up and talk? Actually, we might as well just everyone queue up on this side, because otherwise we'll have weird things about who does what. Go ahead.
So, I think this is stuff I was doing anyways, just working behind a bar. I was doing it anyway, but I never paid attention to the reactions.
Right.
So we went into a cafe, and there's a young lady sitting at a table, and I gave her the eyebrows and a little, and then didn't think anything about it. But then I sat down, and something I never would have done before was pay attention to her after I had done that. And sure enough, she couldn't stop staring at her table.
Right. And by the way,
because I wasn't paying attention before.
If you follow through, and this, by the way, this is something very important. I remember when I first discovered the whole eyebrow flash thing, as I told you, I was going for the myth of, the master hypnotist who can sit in a restaurant and eat his noodles, and people walk up to him going, "You're cool. I don't know who you are, but I like you," right? And I couldn't do it. I tried everything. I tried mimicking people's posture, and I sat in the train until I got a crink in my neck. I tried rhythms. If someone's got a movement, especially like when they're walking, that actually will still get a bit of attention. That's quite good. But everything else, I just couldn't do it. They were oblivious to me. And then I came across the whole eyebrow flashing thing, and I was in a restaurant in London. Those of you who know, it's called Wagamama. It's like a Japanese noodle-style restaurant. Big long benches. I was sitting there eating my noodles, and did the eyebrow flash, and someone like three things across, would make eye contact, eyebrow flash, and she eyebrow flashed back, and I went, "Oh my God, this is working!" Ate my noodles, refused to look up, right? So if you're going to do the eyebrow flash and you're going to follow up with this whole stuff here, please do maintain contact to some degree. You don't have to keep staring, but a friendly contact, that's the follow-up. Remember, the eyebrow flash is just the invitation to treat. It's the invitation for a greeting. The mirroring part, and that means you have to have some kind of non-verbal engagement, maybe look at them and have a kind of non-verbal conversation going on, if you like. That's what continues this. This opens the door, but this keeps the door open. Does that make sense? So if you think that all you have to do is sit in the hotel lobby and go, "Did they see it? Tell me, are they looking?" Right? You missed the object of the exercise. So, great. I mean, just what you're saying is reminding me of that, in terms of, especially those of us who are a little more shy, will be prone to do the thing, and that's my technique done, and I'll forget about it and hope that they come over and talk to me, right? It doesn't quite work that way. It doesn't work that way for you either, does it? Normally, if you keep engaged after you've done the initial thing, that's when they come over and give you lots of... You'll get, by the way, you'll get great service like this in restaurants if you want it. Right? You will get great service. But it all comes down to, again, the purpose of the inner smile is about intention. Right? It is communicating an intention. The intention is, I'm friendly, I will treat you well, you're one of us, which means we're going to protect you. We're going to... there we go. We're going to protect you. You're part of our group, and that gives you privileges. Does that make sense? And you have to follow that up in terms of with the intention, because it's not just, this is not a device to get people to like you and go, "Ha-ha, got it now, ha-ha, now move on to something else." If you break the very intention, the very thing that got you there in the first place, well, you're not carrying through, you're not fulfilling on your unconscious promise. Does that make sense? Do you get what I'm talking about here? It's actually quite important, because really what we're doing here is you're making promises, and no one likes a person that breaks the promises, even if it's an unconscious one, right? Because they come in with a certain expectation, now they're being treated harshly. It's kind of like what happened over here with, where is he gone now? With Mike, is it? John, close, sorry. With John. What happened with John, you may have noticed I cheated a little bit as well, because we had a little, I had a friendly greeting first. The second time, I began the friendly greeting to make sure that he was in the program, and then I ignored him, right? So it's actually worse than just ignoring him. I opened the promise, and then I canceled on my promise. I didn't fulfill my promise. Do you see how that works? And that's the other reason why I got a stronger reaction, and I basically did that to cheat so I get a better reaction. Sorry. But you have to fulfill on your promises, especially to the unconscious mind, because that's where all the juju is at. Does that make sense, you guys? Go ahead. William, do you want to actually turn around sideways a little bit so we can actually get your handsome features on that? Just wave hello to the camera over there. There you go.
So our server was just walking across the restaurant, and she looked our way, and I gave a little flash, and she stopped dead in her tracks and made a beeline for the table.
Right.
And then the woman who was serving water, I gave her a flash, and every time she came back to serve water, she lit up like a Christmas tree when she hit me. So it was fun.
It's powerful stuff, isn't it? Right? It seems like a small throwaway. Thank you so much for that. It seems like a small throwaway thing, but honestly, guys, if you do this and carry through, follow through on the implied promise, shall we say, this stuff will take you a long, long way. And I wish I'd been sitting in a chair like you are right now and got it this easily, because it took me a long, hard road to find this out. And the irony is, academia has known this since probably the 60s or so, maybe even the 50s, maybe even earlier. But that's the earliest sort of references I found for it. It's just, it's buried away in some little archive. Someone thought, oh, this is interesting, let's move on. And I went, wow. When I found it, it's like, I have found the secret Bible. The gold is all mine, and I'm keeping it. And then you guys hadn't go and bloody take it off me. Go ahead.
I made 2 observations. Dave and I went down to the Daily Grill downstairs. When I did the flash with the hostess, the first time she didn't respond, she just had a poker face. Second time when I did the flash, all of a sudden she lit up like a Christmas tree.
Right.
That was the first observation.
Can I just pause you there before
Sure.
we make the second one? What would your reading be of what happened there? She was what? She was oblivious. Actually, I'd say the first time, she was somewhere between oblivious and closed, right? So oblivious, she didn't know how to react to it, so it caught her by surprise, so she's a little bit closed, because maybe she's just in that humdrum, boring work mode, and life's getting on top of her and all the rest of it. So she's oblivious, maybe a little bit closed, because she's not really engaging so much. He got the signal, so it works back into the unconscious going like, oh, hang on a second, this person just told me I'm part of his tribe, I better pay attention here, right? The second time he did it, it confirmed. Remember we talked about fulfilling promises? He fulfilled on his promise. He followed through on the promise he made to her unconscious, saying, you're still one of us, even though you were a little bit poker faced earlier on. It's okay. I still love you, right? And that's when she lit up.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So this comes to trust. Some people need a couple of tests before they start trusting, and it seems that you had a little test that went there before the trust came through, or it burst through that shell that she'd built up around herself for whatever reason, right? So excellent. That's a nice observation.
And the second time is that when our waitress came, I flashed her, but Dave had a poker face. So
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So when she was serving us, when she looked at me, she was light up, and then when she looked at Dave, she had a poker face.
Right.
And Dave noticed that too. It was like, wow. It was like, it was night and day. It was like when she looked at me, she was smiling and all that stuff. When she looked at Dave, she was like a poker face. Look.
It's intense stuff, right?
Yeah.
You see how powerful this stuff is, guys? This is really the juice. I mean, everyone. I've had hundreds of people talk to me about how do you build rapport and what's the secret technique and what do you say and what stories do you say, and it's like flash your eyebrows. Right? It seems ridiculously simple, but hopefully you understand the behavior may be simple, but the context you're embedded in is not, right? The intention has to still be there. The emotion that drives it still needs to be there. But once you get it right, and once you get it natural, it's pretty damn dramatic. You can't miss it once you start looking for this, right? Anyone else notice that sort of thing? It's pretty obvious once it starts happening, right? So thank you. That's an excellent observation.
I think it's terrific that he had the persistence to do it a second time when not being reciprocated on the first.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, because I think there's always a tendency to not want to try again because they didn't reciprocate the first time.
Because then your own feelings are hurt. It's like,
exactly.
Well, if they don't like me, well, screw you, buddy. I'll burn your house down, right?
Exactly.
I haven't yet. That's why I have no house, right? Go ahead. Perhaps.
I went to Subway for lunch,
right.
And I made eye contact with the person that would prepare the sandwich, and I flashed the eyebrow because I think I saw her do it first.
Okay.
Or tried to do it in a way that was similar to how she did. And I didn't ask for it, but I think she gave me 4 extra slices of Swiss cheese.
So, cheese lovers amongst you? The eyebrow cheese flash. Thank you.
And one other
more,
thing
go
real
ahead.
quick, yeah. So I went up to the front desk to ask a few questions about where some things are located in the area here, like banks and internet and all that kind of thing. And they saw my badge, and the woman says, "Hey, you with the hypnosis folks?" I said, "Yeah." Can I try it? So I was like, "Sure, okay." And now I had to.
Can I just pause you there
Yeah.
1 second?
Yeah.
Anyone else here already a hypnotist before they came today? Right? How often do you normally get asked, get volunteered, people say, "Can you hypnotize me?" when they first meet you? Right? When they first meet you, as a stranger. It is very, 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 very rare. So what you just experienced is something that other people like doing street hypnosis, that's their biggest fear is like, but what if they say no? Because a lot of people do say no. But what did I do wrong? How can I get past this? How can I make them want to do hypnosis? Yeah, do you know what? All right, sure, I'll do hypnosis with you. Why? Again, do you see what it means? You're one of us or one of them. As soon as she was one of us, well, then it must be interesting to hypnosis. Hypnosis is an interesting field, but if taking care of trust and comfort, the whole background to rapport, in one fell swoop.
And these people work here. They see that there's 100 people attending, so they must be figuring, well, there's got to be something to this.
Right.
You know.
I mean, which of these other 100 people do they approach? The one that flashed the eyebrows. Right? Seriously. They know you're all hypnotists, right? Did anyone come up to you guys and say, "Oh, I hear you're a hypnotist and you're doing that whole convention thing. Can you hypnotize me, please?"
Actually,
No.
it's interesting. There were two people at the desk, and one of them is... Well, the first one is the one that got talking to me, and I was definitely flashing eyebrows back and forth with her, and she was telling me about how a friend of hers quit smoking through hypnosis. The person next to her is the one that said to me, "Can you hypnotize me?" She was not the one that I had any eyebrow interaction with, but
Right.
she just saw the two of us.
Because you just created a social
Yeah,
group, right?
Exactly.
So
yeah.
remember how we talked about yesterday in terms of authority? When you have the leader of the group on your side, the other people in the group automatically will adopt you as well, which is pretty much
It looks like
what will
that's
happen.
what happened, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I said, "Why don't you come out from behind and we'll do this?" And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've never done an instant induction with a stranger before. I mean, because all of you, even if I did that with you and I had never met you before, we were here in this context. And this context doesn't apply up there.
So you think.
So sure enough, it went really easy, and I actually had her, look here in my eyes and put my hands on her shoulders, and started to tell her to, breathe more easily and all this. And then I reached behind her head, and I asked her for permission actually to put my hands on her shoulders.
Sure, that's a good thing to
And
do.
I think you don't even have to ask for the permission to put the hand on the head. Once they've given okay to some kind of physical contact, virtually anything within reason is within reason.
Right.
And so she went straight onto my shoulder, and it started to take her to a nice place, and
And just let me just emphasize something here. A complete stranger put her head on his chest like this and close her eyes in public. That is not normal social behavior, right?
yeah.
Do you see that? I mean, it's very difficult for me to really emphasize just how dramatic what it is we did this morning really is. Hopefully these stories are bringing some to this to life, because if you haven't done it the hard road, which I have, you won't necessarily know just how significant and how much easier this makes your life, right?
Exactly. And I don't know about the effect of words, but for whatever it's worth. So I'm telling her, the deeper you go, the more relaxed you feel, the deeper you go. And I said, I want you to go to a place where everything was right and everybody was getting along and you felt perfect and everything was just going swimmingly and blah, 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 blah. And then when she came out and I asked her, where was that place? She said, the beach. I never mentioned the beach. I never asked her to be that specific.
But
I
you
think
said
the use
swimmingly.
and I think that's what triggered it, for whatever that's worth. Yeah.
Do you see, going back to reference experiences, words through associations that have all these associations attached? When he said swimmingly, of course, it opens that category, right? Which includes beach, and then becomes a natural reference point to cross-reference into. So, do you see how now when you know these little principles, and they are really straightforward to understand, suddenly it opens up your whole capacity of indirect hypnosis, doesn't it? Your ability to talk about one thing, but really something completely different is happening at the same time. Didn't that open that up to you guys? So good job. You just did a whole little conversational COVID hypnosis bit within regular hypnosis, and they never even knew it. Good job. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. I think that deserves it. Do you want to turn sideways a little bit so that the camera
Sure.
can see as well?
Sure, I can turn sideways. We had a number of things to do, but so I didn't actually do a lot of specific interaction, but it was very interesting. I don't generally like security people and police officers. I just don't like them generally, okay? They're okay, but, you know, they have this authority thing that I don't care for. But I did it to several of the security officers, and I got more smiles coming back at me from the security officer. It was just, and eyebrows raising back. And I thought, ooh, that's cool. But the reason I'm up is because I did it to somebody that didn't do it back to me.
Right.
And we were rushing up here. We were running late. We were in the elevator, and he was just sitting back. And I didn't do it back to him a second time, which I guess I was the one that didn't do it back.
Sure.
But he just kept looking at me out of his eyes, which was kind of interesting, you know.
Notice you've got someone who's slightly closed off, and they might be just needing more in terms of to open that person up in terms of more of a surprise or something like that. But the eyebrow flash itself might be enough of a surprise. And what you're describing, again, is probably similar to what happened over here with was it Mickey who did the second go? Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, whoever did here, the double eyebrow flash thing, he's thinking, going like, do I know him? Should I be? I don't know what to do now. I'm feeling like socially awkward now because maybe I know this person, I've now blanked him, which is not allowed. And all these things are going through in his mind. So I suspect, I don't know this for a fact, who knows, right? But I suspect if you had done it again or given another friendly gesture, he might have lit up and go, wow, I guess this guy's really cool. I like him, right? And again, there's no guarantees because if he's really stuck in his closed loop, it's a personal issue, then you may need more to break through that ice. But to be fair, people who are that closed are relatively rare in the world. So, you know.
I think he was just too busy being macho for the other young lady in the elevator.
You know, there's a lot of things, right? So, guys, are you enjoying this? Was this a useful start to the day?